Welcome back to Angelo's Tennis, and this is a special edition tonight of Angelo's Tennis. I'm going to get into a little bit more of my tennis background, and specifically, I want to talk about coaching and I want to talk about jobs. I want to talk about tennis jobs. And I have interviewed, this is not an exaggeration, I have interviewed at least 20, probably more tennis clubs over the entire East Coast of the United States. More than 20 interviews. Okay, I have gotten, and I've worked. I have worked at only one. Only one of those interviews was successful, and I worked there. I worked at that club for about 4 months before exiting. And many of those clubs, in fact, most of those clubs, I didn't want to work there after the interview. And there were maybe a couple, maybe one or two that I really wanted to work there. And I didn't get the job for several reasons. So I'm going to get into some of that in this video. I don't think I'm going to go over all of them because this is completely unscripted, completely off the top of my head. And I'm not sure how far I want to go down memory lane. I really don't want to go down memory lane at all, but I'm going to. So, my first, this is the odd part. One of my first interviews was in Charlottesville, Virginia. And if you've ever been to Charlottesville, it's a nice little town. It's a nice little tennis town. They got a really good tennis culture there. It's the home of Boar's Head, and it's a home of a challenger event every year. And I played on that court there. And another time I played on that court before in a tournament at a coaches conference. And yeah, it's a nice little place, and it was a country club that I interviewed for. I had only been coaching tennis for, I'd say, less than a year, and I was told, oh, it's so hard to get a job. It's so hard to get a job. There's so many people that apply, et cetera, et cetera. And here, this guy gave me an interview. He gave me 2 interviews, and might have been due to my reference. I had a really good reference that this guy. The director was an older director. Has been in the industry for a long time, so that may have been why. But I still got the second interview, and ended up not getting the job. It was an assistant pro position, and I ended up not getting it because I was told somebody was moving to Charlottesville for their girlfriend, who was a coach from out of the area, and he gave him the job because it was, I think, because it was a safer decision. But this was a very nice country club, and like I said, less than 1 year, and then after that shot, it went downhill real fast. I mean, I was very much an ignorant tennis coach at that point. I didn't have that much experience. After that, I did work at a country club locally, and gained a lot of experience there, and that's when I pretty much decided which way I was going to go at that point. Now, had I got that job in Charlottesville, I'm not sure I would have went in the same direction, because that was a very much traditional position. I would have learned a lot from that. And funny story, actually, I'm going to bring this back around. Funny story, I met one of the tennis pros there that interviewed me. Later on, I met him, which I might come back to that as well. I met him maybe 7 or 8 years later in what was kind of like an interview. So that was my initial experience. And like I said, after that, went downhill very fast. I want to talk about commercial clubs versus country clubs. I don't think there was ever a commercial club that I ever wanted to work at. They are the absolute worst. And I say that because they're in business for max profit, and it can be very difficult to make money. But one in particular, I was in Philadelphia, and I went there to interview big. Actually, no, it wasn't in Philadelphia. It was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Really big, nice facility, indoor and outdoor. And all I really remember about this is two things. One, the guy was really hesitant to show me the full spectrum of the program. So what I mean by that is he would joke about, I'll show you, we'll do an interview or a presentation on this court, but we're not gonna go in there. Let's stay away from there, because it was the bad kids. They lump all the bad kids together. That were not bad like as in tennis, but bad as in like bad behavior and hard to deal with. So he puts me in the better group. So I did my little presentation. Then we went outside, and I remember seeing this old man. He had to be in his 50s. I say old. He wasn't really that old. Late 40s or 50s. And he looked so beaten down and just absolutely terrible. I felt bad for the guy. And he was probably a traditional coach. And they did have the green ball. I think that was like an actual green ball class. And there's a couple other things, but I just remember that standing out. I was just looking at that guy. I'm like, is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I want to be? Like, that was the first time I started to click that. I think at the time I was 32 or 31. But it's the first time it started to click that this wasn't a very good deal or a very good position in life. Even though I was so passionate about tennis, and I had some ideas about what I wanted to do, and none of them were actually falling in line with these jobs. There was another one down in West Virginia. It was similar to that. The guy, it was an indoor, outdoor, and an indoor bubble. They bubbled the thing for the. Actually, this was in Falls Church, Virginia. They bubbled the courts for the winter, and this guy was contracted to run the tennis program there. And he was probably in his 50s for sure, late 50s maybe. And not only that, he was from West Virginia. He drove from West Virginia to Falls Church, Virginia, to do this. And very similar experience, very traditional guy, old school, never could work for him ever in a million years. And I just started just watching this guy and like watching them do what they do on a daily basis. I was like, fuck this, I don't want to do this shit. And many experiences like that. I started to just slowly, I say that now, but it was slowly starting to click that I don't want to do this. And fast forward, I do want to, at that point, I want to fast forward to towards, I would say, when I was kind of through with this process. I was going to move to Florida. Before I did that, I saw a warehouse that was an indoor soccer field. And the guy had a business there, and his daughter or something turned it into a soccer field to make money off of indoor soccer leagues. And it wasn't that big, but I ended up renting it out, and then I started to really do what I wanted to do, which I had already started. I'd already gotten started on it, but now I had my own facility. Before I was independent contractor at a commercial club, and I was doing my own thing there. But now I could do the whole thing, which was a junior. I wanted to do junior teams. I wanted to have everyone learning and playing on a team in groups, no individual lessons. I still do individual lessons, but that was my vision anyway. And then, so kind of start with like a giant a giant group of kids, start them in groups, and then funnel them into private lessons as they got to that point, which I knew would be a very, very long time. And that's a whole nother story, which I'm not going to get into this video, but that was my vision. And a couple of the clubs that I wanted to work at, they were definitely country clubs. There was one in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Winston-Salem isn't exactly where I would want to be. Or if you're familiar with Winston-Salem, there's a pro tournament there. Wake Forest is there. It is in North Carolina. But this guy, I actually rejected going down there because I said I had enough. I'm not driving 8 hours to get rejected, or to see some club that's a piece of shit, a shit tennis program again. So he's like, so I told him the story kind of because I told him I'm not coming, and then he's like, you should come, check it out. And by the way, mind you, all these interviews, remember I was told in the beginning that how hard it was to get a tennis job. In some cases, it is. It's hard to get an interview, but it's not hard to get a tennis job. Especially once you have a few years of experience under your belt, it gets a lot easier. At least it gets a lot easier to get noticed. And so I go down there. He convinces me I go down there. It's February. It's nice down there. It's warm. He's got 3 kids. At the very least, he's got 3 kids that are all stars. All 3 of them. All 3 boys. So at the very least, I work here. I get to work with them. I get to be around these kids. And so I did my group, did my presentation and all that, and it was really going well. But then I started pushing the orange ball. And his one kid, his 10-year-old, or not, no, it was like his 8-year-old or 9-year-old was playing yellow ball. And this kid was aggressive. He was you could see like a really athletic, aggressive boy can play yellow ball. It's not a problem. But I was really pushing this orange ball on him. Like, I don't know why, but I guess I was kind of like insecure that I wanted to show him that I knew what I was talking about. Well, that fucked me big time because as that I got more assertive about that towards the end of because I kind of got excited when the kids were on the court. These boys, I was excited because they were fun to work with. They could do anything. And I still had their problems that you have coaching with anybody really, but I get excited when I get around good tennis. And he took that as a negative thing, and that was the end of that. Never heard from him again. But that was probably one of the clubs that I wanted to work at the most. Also had I'm going to leave you with this one. There's too many. There's really too many. But one more. I was in Pittsburgh. I was interviewing in Pittsburgh, and it was cold. It was winter, and it was a 4-court clay outdoor and a 2 indoor court in this old, really old indoor facility. I wouldn't even call it a facility. It was a country club. It was an easy gig. It was like literally 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They didn't even do anything on the weekends. It was all during the day. I think I would have been there till 6 or 7 at the latest. And it was on top of this hill. You had to drive up. And it was so cold and it was snowy. And I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to want to do this. Actually, it wasn't, I don't know if it was snow, but it was just, might not even be cold. I don't know, but that's what was going through my head. It was cold, Pittsburgh, snowy. What am I doing? But these are the opportunities I was getting, so I had to take them. And this guy could see it. He could see I didn't want to work there. I started seeing the facility. It was like old country club, very old country club, which I don't really like to begin with. I don't like that whole scene. But I like the clay courts, but I don't like the whole country club scene. The people are okay, but they're still not my cup of tea. Some of them. So I sit down with this guy, and he looks at me and he's like, "Oh, if you're not a director in 3 years, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, you should be a director." So he was like a very big go-getter type guy. And he's not wrong. Like I think you could even be a director in some cases, depending on what you're willing to take and how much of a go-getter you are. Like I'm too laid back. I'm too like in my head. I have too much of an imagination. I don't like being told what to do. Things like that. But this guy, he said to me, looked at me, he's like, "I don't think you want this job." He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I don't think you want this job. You go on your way home. When you leave here today, when you're on your way home, I want you to think about if you want this job. And I want you to call me if you want this job." And sure enough, I walked out the door, and I didn't call him. I could not call him. I had the job. He would have gave me the job. Like, it was that easy. I knew I had the job as soon as I walked in the door. You can just tell. And I couldn't call him on my way home. I was like, there's no way in fucking hell I'm working there. Cold-ass Pittsburgh in this tiny-ass club with no players. And, they always pitch you. There's so many families here. This is the thing about coaching tennis, too. If you're a coach out there, they want a seller. They want that more than anything. Even at country clubs, they want you to sell the families to come and play there. Because you still have to convince them to play there. They don't have to play there. They got golf, they got the pool, the restaurant, etc. They don't have to play there. So they want go-getters. They want people that improve their tennis program. And that's another thing I didn't like. They want you to come in and build your business. So it's like I gotta start all over, which is another reason why I think a lot of people don't leave. Like I had friends who coached around here that wouldn't leave because they already built their business. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They got a better business here. It might not be as nice. The facility might not be as nice, or they might not even have their own facility in some cases, but they have their business built. So like, I'm not gonna go move somewhere else and start all the fuck over. And that's what a lot of them want you to do. And they'll tell you, they'll pitch you. As I said, they'll pitch you. Oh, you can. There's so much here. You can grow. There's so many players, and you're gonna do so well, and this and that. It's all bullshit. Most of it's bullshit. It is a true sink or swim business. So I'm gonna leave you there with that. Maybe I'll come back and do another video because, like I said, many more stories about interviewing and trying to work at different clubs. Some of them are actually way more entertaining than this. But so, hope you enjoyed that, and have a good night.